he's back. Good morning. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. As who was that? Who said hump day? Corey. As Corey would say, hump day. Good morning. Happy hump day. Welcome back. We are gonna get rocking and rolling here in a moment, ladies and gentlemen. Just give me 1 second. Let me make sure we are good to go with our live streams. So go ahead and hit me with a good morning, and then we'll officially dive into it. All right, I think we're good. Nope. Tom, good morning. Kevin, Mike, Corey, what's going on, everybody? All right. Bear with me today, too, guys. I woke up feeling like absolute dog, S-H-I-T. Like, I feel like crap. So just bear with me. I'm not really 100% with it, but we're going to talk about it, pick it apart, what do we got going on for today. And, dude, it's crazy to see the Qs already back at all-time highs. Absolutely freaking wild that just back in April, we were down like 20-some%. The sky's falling. Oh, my gosh, we're going to dump. And then literally like 60 days later, we've gone from, what, low 400 back up to 540, pushing all-time highs on QQQ. Wild. So we'll pick apart the Qs today, try and get an idea of what we got going on. I know we don't have the SPY back up at all-time highs yet, so at least there's probably a little something with the SPY, but the Qs, all-time highs. Sky's the limit. It's not going to really have a lot to really do with the Qs today, guys. All right, but we'll dive into it. We'll pick it apart, and we'll also look at some of your individual stocks as well. Maybe Tesla's looking pretty good today. Who knows? But before we dive into the charts and the technicals, we're going to kick things off with today's daily devotional. And I'm still reading in Matthew. So today was Matthew 5. Matthew chapter 5, verse 5. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. And I'm like, what does meek mean? So I had to go to my best friend AI, go to Google and say, what is meek? Because I come from Indiana, and I barely graduated high school, so I don't know the simplest of words. But that was today. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. So I went through and looked at the word meek. It comes from the Greek word praeus, which means gentle, humble, modest, and self-controlled. So it's like blessed are the humble, blessed are the modest, blessed are the gentle, the self-controlled, for they will inherit the earth. The verse might sound upside down in today's world. After all, our culture tends to cheer for the bold, the loud, the self-assured, the ones who take charge and dominate. But Jesus, he highlights something radically different. He blesses the meek. He blesses the self-controlled, the modest, the humble, the gentle. So what does that even mean? We talked about it. The word meek comes from the Greek word praeus, which again means gentle, humble, modest, and self-controlled. But let's be clear. Meekness is not weakness. It's not fertility or passivity. It's strength. It's real deep strength that chooses to be restrained and submitted under God's authority. Jesus himself was described as meek himself, but we know Jesus wasn't a pushover. Jesus didn't back down from the truth. He didn't shrink away from conflict. Instead, he chose to surrender his power to the Father's will, right up to the point of the cross. That's what meekness looks like in the kingdom of God. Power that's surrendered, not flaunted. Strength that serves, not controls, and humility that trusts God's timing and his direction. The meek will inherit the earth, not just the future tense, it's also now. As followers of Jesus, we're called to live differently, to reflect his character in a world desperate for true gentleness and grace. Meekness is kingdom power under kingdom control. It's choosing humility. It's trusting God's plan. It's letting his strength shine through your surrendered heart. So think about where God might be inviting you today to walk in meekness, to be more humble, more self-controlled, modest. Maybe it's a conversation where you want to be right now. Maybe it's holding back what you could push ahead. Ask him to give you the strength to be gentle. Ask him to give you the strength and the courage to trust that his way really is the best way. So blessed are the meek, the gentle, the humble, the modest, the self-controlled, for they will inherit the earth. That was Matthew chapter 5, verse 5. And some really good, powerful key takeaways. Surrender your power. Don't flaunt it, right? Utilize the strength that God blesses you with to serve others, not control others, right? So really powerful stuff. Awesome way to start the day. And now we'll officially go right to the charts, the technicals. We'll pick it apart, talk about what we got for today. As always, we start with the SPY, the Qs, IWM. Going top down and looking to see where we could have some of the best trades, right? I want to find my key significant areas, zones of support resistance, supply demand, and I want to, again, get clear on where the best of the best areas will be for today to put on trades, right? So we already know the Qs are sitting at all-time highs. It's going to be pretty limited as far as like the analysis that we do here. There's just really nothing to the upside. Just a couple key zones that we'll be looking at. SPY will definitely have a lot more to work with. So let's go ahead and start with the SPY. On the daily time frame, there's a couple of things that I'm doing. I'm looking for key areas of support resistance, supply demand, and then potential gaps that could get filled. So we can all see that we have this gap up from Monday into Tuesday session, right? So let's just go ahead and mark up the gap, right? So we're going to go ahead and take this gap from body to body by default, right? Start with a body to body gap. Let's go ahead and change the colors because I like mine to be in blue. Your volume is a lot lower than normal. I did everything on my end. On my end, it shows I'm in the red, which means it's going to blow your freaking speakers. So I don't know, man. But everything looks to be pretty good on my end, brother. And I'm in the red on my volume meter. So, yeah. Any louder, man, someone's going deaf today. So we go body to body, which is just Monday's close to Tuesday's open. Body to body on the gap. And then run an inside gap from wick to wick, right? So go ahead and mark up that gap. So we got the gap. Check. Like I said, bear with me too. I'm not 100% here today, like at all. I am feeling like ass. So we got the gap to the downside. We're running again, body to body, and wick to wick. So everything to the downside, we're good. We know we're gapping up today. We got the gap to the downside. There's really nothing else in that region. So we're just going to go start looking left in this region here and really start to find those key significant levels that if price gets to today, these are areas that we're willing to take some trades, right? So what else do we have here on the SPY? And again, we're just looking in this region and just drilling this down and looking to see where those key levels are going to be at. So here's going to be the first zone, and it's pretty much the area that we came up into yesterday. So now this is going to be a support zone here on the SPY. I mean, this is a zone that we had yesterday, pretty much in the same area. We had a lot of resistance. We hit that zone, high a day, big dump to the downside, low a day bounce, high day rejection, low a day. Pretty big bounce. I mean, that level's been hit many times. Pretty sharp moves away from it. And it's the same area that we came up into yesterday. And we started to back down a little bit, right? There was a little bit of resistance. Overall, buyers, were in control, pushed the stock higher. Now we see that zone holding a support through post-market, through pre-market. So again, it's going to be a very well-respected zone. So that zone is between 606.39 to 607.50. Right. Next thing I would do is I would even mark up yesterday's close with just a single line. So just go grab a horizontal line. And I would just go through and mark up yesterday's close as well. Because we know we're gapping up today, right? We're gapping up. So what do we see when we gap up? Sometimes you just come down to the prior day close. We get a gap fill bounce and we push. So that's why I want to go ahead and mark up yesterday's close, right at 606.78. And I also know that we have that daily zone of support right there as well. So if we open higher, we come down into that daily support zone, and we hold above yesterday's close, we could see a bit of a gap fill bounce. So I already know that's the first trade that I would look to take on the SPY, is getting long down around this 606.78 level. Yesterday's close and that daily zone of support. So we know what we have down below. Awesome. What do we have to the upside? Right? What do we have to the upside as far as any key zones of resistance? Next daily zone of resistance here on the SPY will be 608.12 to 608.52. right? We see high day rejection, high day rejection, high day rejection, nice little low a day bounce. So we have, not that many hits, but you're working with less data at these all-time highs. So you're not going to find zones that have been hit 20 times when you've only been up at all-time highs for like 5 trading sessions, right? So you're just going to have, zones with fewer hits. But the big thing is look at the types of sharp moves away. Do we still have those sharp reactions? Yeah, we got that sharp reaction off that zone here on February 7th, right? Sharp reaction here followed by a gap down the next day. Low a day, big freaking bounce to the upside. So at least we get those really sharp reactions off that zone. All right, so it's a dialed in zone. I like it. Again, that zone is between 608.13 to 608.49. Just tweaked it a little bit there. 608.13 to 608.49. That's going to be your next area of resistance here on the SPY. And that's all we're doing. We're just going to keep looking left, keep going up, and identifying any other key areas of daily support resistance. I would say the next zone and the final zone for today is going to be this daily zone of resistance right here. We got what? 1 hit, 2 hits, gap down, open high, drop. It's a decent zone. Again, you just don't have a lot to work with up against these all-time highs, but we got 1 hit, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got 6 hits, and we got 2 sharp moves away from the zone, right? Sharp move away, gap down, sharp move away. That looks good. Next, do we have any daily zones of supply and demand? Well, we do have this daily supply zone right here. So we're going to mark that up. That was from February 20th. We had the gap down. So there's your drop, base, gap down, drop. So really strong supply zone. Drop, base, drop. Even have the gap down. Strong impulsive move out. That looks pretty good. So let's go ahead and mark that up as supply. And again, we're still working the SPYs daily. We have not flipped down into a lower time frame just yet. All we're doing is daily gap analysis. We have a gap. Cool. Support resistance analysis. We dial it in the zones. Then we're looking at supply and demand. And we're just finding key areas, key zones that we want to look to trade off of today. Is there anything else we can do on the daily? I don't see anything else to do on the daily. Eventually, if we see the SPY hit resistance, hit supply, and we start to pull back, then we would run a fib retracement on that leg and see where the pullback could put us. But we haven't put in the high before the pullback yet, so it's premature to run that fib retracement at this time because we don't know where that high is going to be before the retracement. And I would bet that we get some kind of a retracement before getting the break over all-time highs. So we'll see. Maybe that's tomorrow. We start to see it pulling back. We can put a fib retracement on this leg and see where that retracement low would most likely form. But other than that, we're pretty much good to go on the daily. There's nothing else that's really standing out. So we're going to go ahead and go into a 4-hour time frame, and we're just looking for some 4-hour supply and demand, guys. That's what we're looking for here. Some 4-hour supply on demand. Do I have anything on a 4-hour? I got a little 4-hour basing candle right there. I'll probably have something that looks, pretty good as well in those lower time frames. But let's go ahead and mark up this little demand zone. We got this rally base rally formation. So let's mark up that 4-hour demand. Let's look left and see if we have any supply on the 4-hour. We do, right? We have this nice little drop, base, drop. Then we come up again and have this little rally base drop as well. So we got a couple of different 4-hour zones to the upside. So there's going to be this really crystal clear 4-hour zone of supply that's inside of what? Daily supply as well. So we already have some overlap going on between daily supply and 4-hour supply. All right, so that's a nice little supply candle. Drop, base, drop. Nice impulsive move to the downside. Then what do we see here? We see this nice little rally base drop as well. So we can go in here and mark up this 4-hour supply zone. Now let's look at the differences between these two zones, right? Why is this zone more significant than this zone here? There's one thing that stands out to me. Well, it's because the candle body here is less than 50% of the candle's entire range, right? This candle body here is about 80% of the candle's entire range. Above 50%, we can't check that box off. So we already know that this zone would be more significant than this zone just based on the candle structure, right? Just go ahead and throw that out. So if you want to mark that zone up, you very well can. You could have 2 4-hour zones in there. If you just want to leave the 1 4-hour zone, you get the overlap on the daily, be a little bit pickier, and at least we see this little sliver of overlap, right? That's where the daily overlaps the 4 hour. So that little sliver is going to be a great area to look to take some puts if the SPY gets there. So we did 4-hour analysis. We're looking left. We're good to go on a 4. Let's go into a 1-hour time frame. And let's see what we have on a 1 hour. We know we have some 4-hour demand. Where's going to be any kind of 1 hour if we have any good 1 hour structure? I mean, you got this little drop base rally, but the impulse wasn't explosive by any means, right? It wasn't an explosive impulse. Then we have this little drop base rally as well, created on lighter volume and pre-market. You're talking 13,000 shares traded. This impulse out was 32,000 shares. So, yeah, the 1 hour doesn't excite me too much. Do we have any 1 hour supply that stacks on the 4 hour? Anything crystal clear on a 1 hour time frame? Yeah, you could probably tighten it up a little bit on a 1 hour. But I still like the 4 hour daily little sliver right there. It's such a tight little overlap anyway. That's going to be the best area to take puts on the SPY. So I'm not going to run any 1 hour supply up there. Again, we could go through and mark up some of that 1 hour demand, but look at the impulse out. It was driven on lower volume. Not crazy about it. Let's go see if we have anything on a 30. Let's go look at a 30-minute time frame. Looking at yesterday's session, you got that little rally base rally. And again, this impulse wasn't anything like exceptional. So I'm not crazy about those lower time frame zones. Even that demand zone on the 4 hour, if we look at the impulse out, was it 2 times greater? It was 2 times greater. So at least you got some, decent 4 hour. Again, just looking at the 1 hour, the 30-minute, not crazy. But that all lines up. That all gives you some confluence regardless. You got some 4 hour demand here. You're looking at yesterday's close at 606.78. And then you have that daily zone of support between 606.39 to 607.05. So you already have 3 reasons to get long at 606.78. So that's going to be the first plan for today on the SPY, is if we open on up here, we come down and close the gap, right? Because we're gapping up. So if we gap up today, I'd want to see it come down and close the gap. Just come down and bounce off yesterday's close. But not only would we come down to close the gap and possibly bounce off yesterday's close, there's 2 other confluences to get long there, right? You have a daily zone of support, and you have some 4 hour demand. So we already know there's going to be a high probability trade here. We know that if we get down to that 606.78 and we see a nice little pop and bounce, there is a high probability chance that we get a nice move to the upside. So that's why I'm looking to get long on the SPY at that 606.78. All right, so that's going to be the first plan for today, guys. All right. But then we have this daily zone of resistance here between 608.13 to 608.49. Is there anything else around that level to where we have a confluence? There's not a whole lot that I'm seeing. Going back to a daily, looking at that level, anything that I missed? Nothing that I missed. Let me go into a 4 hour time frame, look left. And again, I'm just looking to see if we have any other confluence that lines up at that zone. And I'm not really seeing too much. So it's just a nice daily zone of resistance. So here's going to be the second plan for today, guys. Is if the SPY opens below that zone, if we push up into it, we top out, and we just can't break it, let's get short and play puts off that daily zone of resistance. You just got to pair that with really good price action. So again, come up. If we can't break it, and you clearly see based on reading price action, order flow, whatever the case is, and you clearly see there's more sellers than buyers present, and we can't break that zone, right? There's going to be a high probability chance we see a move to the downside. So we would want to short that. We'd want to play puts, all right? That's game plan number 2. And then the final game plan for today is if we get a break of that zone. So let's say the SPY opens and we just pop above that zone with some strength. That's awesome. Cool. Wait for it to pull back into that zone. Make sure we hold it as support. And as long as we stay above that zone of support today, we'll get long. We'll play calls. Where to? Our next daily zone of resistance, which is going to be that zone up around 609.96 to 610.30. And that's your third plan. So the plans are pretty simple stuff, right? It's not rocket science. These are, super challenging, complex trades. It's actually really simple shit. Find zones, find key levels. and then wait to see how the stock's setting up off that level. So the hard part for you guys is going to be, well, not for our students, people on TikTok. The hard part for most traders is the patience. Like literally just doing nothing when the market opens and waiting for the stock to get to a zone. That's going to be the hardest part for most traders. But if you can just sit back, chill out, remain calm, cool, collected, and just wait for the stock to get to one of these levels and see how it's setting up, you're going to be a really good trader just by sitting back, being patient, doing nothing, and just waiting. And so that's what you need to do. Wait for the SPY to open and just sit back and wait. And see, do we come up to the zone and top out? If so, you know you want to take puts. And you know where your target is. Awesome, right? If we come up to that zone and break it, you know what you want to see, a retest as support. If you see the retest, what do? You play calls. And guess what? You know where your target's at. So it's easy stuff. You just got to wait. And again, if we come down into that 606.78, we close the gap, we bounce off that support level and that demand zone, we're going to get long at 606.78. Play calls up into that zone of resistance that we just discussed. Those are the three best of the best of the best plans for today on the SPY. All right. Do you guys have any questions about the SPY? Because I'm going to be real. We're going to go look at the cues here in a second, and there's not going to be a whole lot on the cues. So it's going to take us like a couple of minutes to pick that apart. Ugh, dude. I don't know why I woke up feeling like ass today. Excuse me. Not trying to yak on you guys. All right, questions about the SPY. I want to make sure you guys are dialed in. You got the zones dialed in. You understand where the zones came from, why they're significant. Do you guys have any questions about the plans we built, the visual plans? If you guys have questions, let me know. I want to make sure you guys are good to go. All right, this is probably the most important part of your morning, is getting prepared properly before market open, before you start to take trades. If you just come in at market open and you start randomly taking trades and you're losing money, well, ask yourself, are you following a simple process? I don't set bias, guys. That's something I don't do. I don't come in and set bullish bias. I don't set bearish bias, because let's be real, we don't know what the market's going to do until we see it doing it in real time. And we don't know what's going to happen, man. Like, what if the SPY comes up and hits that level and tops out and we can't break it, and we clearly see there's more sellers than buyers, right? Would I want to short that? Yeah. But if I come in with bullish bias, right, do you think that's going to hinder me from possibly seeing that trade and executing that trade if I'm just bullish on the day? Probably, right? Even though I see an A+ short setting up and there's clearly more sellers than buyers present, and I see there's an 80% chance that the stock's going to drop to the downside, I'm bullish today. So I'm probably going to black myself out, and I'm only looking for long opportunities. We don't know what the market's going to do, man. And we don't need to know what the market's going to do. We just need to wait for the market to get to one of our key levels and see what's happening in real time, and then make the best decision to get on the right side of the trade. So with all that being said, just stop setting a bias. It doesn't help. I've never seen a trader, especially traders I've worked with, who would set bias where it's actually been beneficial to them. Are you going to start doing some breakdowns on ES if you get everybody involved with futures? Yeah, man. Absolutely. Always the SPY and the Qs, and then go look at ES, NQ, even look at like silver, gold, things of that nature. For sure, for sure. So we're good on the SPY. Awesome sauce. Let's go over to Kendra. What's up, Kendra, over on YouTube? That's the SPY, so we're all set there. All right. Qs, I mean, there's literally just one thing you can do. I mean, there's not a lot. I mean, go ahead and just mark up the gap on the Qs like we did with the SPY. So we're going to go gap from the body to the body. All right. And then you can even run an inside gap from wick to wick if you would like. That comes directly from Kevin, and I dig it. It's a nice way to mark those gaps up. So gap to the downside. Go ahead and mark up your all-time highs here on QQQ. Where are your all-time highs? 540.80. Where's your closest zone going to be at? Well, the only zone that we have was literally built off those prior all-time highs. So we have 1 hit, 2 hit, 3 hits. So we got this zone here that literally only has about what? About 3 to 4 hits. So we got 1 hit, 2 hit, 3 hit, 4 hit. That gap done open counts as a hit. So you got 4 hits. All right, so it's not a zone that's been hit 10, 20 times like some of those other zones that we normally find. But it has sharp reactions off the zone, right? All-time high, gap down the next day. That's a sharp move down, right? We come up, hit that zone, we back down a little bit, right? We gap down under that zone, we put in a high a day, and then we flush hard and heavy. So that's the most significant zone we have at these all-time highs based on how price moved off that zone. So that's between 539.74 to 539.14 on the Qs. Right? And then we go down to a 5-minute time frame. Look left. Do we have any supply? No, we don't. So what are we going to do? Look for some lower time frame zones of maybe demand. Right? Look for some lower time frame zones of demand. Anything that really stands out to me on a 4-hour? I mean, yeah, you still got that little 4-hour basing candle from post market last night. What about a 1-hour? Do we have anything that lines up at that daily zone on the 1-hour? You're going to have some lower time frame zones, guys, of demand that we could scalp off of all day. But, I mean, it's limited with the Qs. We're just pushing the all-time highs. Sky's the limit. What could we do to get an idea of where price could hit an all-time highs? Can we do a fib extension here? We could absolutely do a fib extension to map out resistance next into all-time highs. So let's go look at a weekly first and see where we would start to run any kind of fib extension on a weekly. And I don't see my points where I would even consider running an extension on a weekly. So we're going to go right back down into a daily. If this is a nice retracement low here from swing low, swing high, retracement low, we could use those points to map out our fib extension as we start to push into these all-time highs. So let's make sure that was a nice little retracement low. We just want to validate the retracement first before we use those points to run an extension, just to make sure it's going to be a valid extension. So here's the cool thing. Before we even put in this high, before we retrace to the 38.2, I already see this fib level being respected along the way up, right? And so when I see a fib level already being respected on the way up before you even have your data points to plot the fib extension in the first place, that makes me feel very, very confident that it is going to be respected and that is the fib. Just look at how that fib was respected beautifully along the move up before we could even run that fib in the first place. That's a nice fib. Let's go ahead and put our fib extension here, guys. All right, so we're going to go take a fib extension from that swing low on May 12th up to the swing high on June 11th. And we're going to drag that extension down to that retracement low from Monday. So there's a fib extension. All right. And so this is extending, right, some price targets to the upside. As we're in all-time highs, we could use this fib extension as price targets if we're getting long. You don't want to use the fib extension to get short off of. I want to stress that. These are not areas of resistance where we short. These are ideas of where price could go to the upside based on the fib extension. So they're to be used as price targets if you're getting long into all-time highs, not utilized as areas to get shorts. All right. So where does the fib extension suggest we get to next? That 618 fib extension's at 545.42. So that's the next area that I would say the Qs have room to. 545.42. All right. And that's all we really have on the Qs. So let's really look at the Qs and compare it to the SPY. Which one do you think is going to set up more realistically for us today and give us some trades? Do you think it's going to be the SPY where we have a lot of key zones to trade off of? Or do you think it's going to be the Qs where we're pushing into all-time highs? It's definitely going to be the SPY. So 99% of my focus today will be on the SPY because there's just not enough to work with on the Qs as we're pushing into these all-time highs. It's definitely the SPY, 100%. Will we keep an eye on the Qs? Yes. Could the Qs set up? Absolutely. But we can clearly see there's going to be much more potential to find A-plus trades setting up on the SPY compared to the Qs. So we're good to go on that. All right. If there's any other individual stocks you want me to look at, let me know. We'll definitely take a look at them. But let's go look at ES and Q. And let's go see what we got on ES and on in freaking Q, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so nice little daily zone of support resistance right here. on ES. I mean, first thing that stood out to me, between 61.64 to 61.72.75, right? Why is that a great zone? Well, we broke that zone back here, came down, retested, low a day bounce, retested, low a day bounce, retested, low a day bounce. You got 3 hits, nice pops. You're below the zone. You can see it's holding as resistance there for a couple of days. You get back above the zone. You regain it as support. Get back above the zone, low a day bounce, high day rejection, low a day bounce, high day rejection, high day rejection. So you can see that this zone has several hits on it, right? Several hits on that zone. And then you see there's really sharp moves off the zone too. So that's a good zone right here on ES. Again, resistance to the upside, 61.64 to 61.72.75. That's going to be your next daily zone of resistance. All right. Do we have any supply? Well, we know there's no supply at all-time highs, but we're still going to mark up that supply zone here on ES. Just be mindful that it's up against those all-time highs. So just tread lightly with it, right? We had supply on the Qs near all-time highs, and we just ripped right through it, right? So again, the rule of thumb is there's no supply at all-time highs. But we'll still look and see, do we have anything setting up off that zone? You never know, right? I've seen zones of supply near all-time highs get hit and respect freaking beautifully. I mean, this zone right here, there was supply right there, right? At all-time highs. Came up, hit those unfilled orders, popped out pretty freaking hard. And now that I look at it, that's actually where supply was created, was right there. Right there was the, actually, no, it was actually back here a little bit, was it not? Yeah. There's your rally base drop. Come up, hit those unfilled orders, drop. Unfilled orders, drop. Hit those unfilled orders, drop. So if you really look at it, where did supply start? Back here, right? There's your rally base, massive dump to the downside. There's your supply zone. These are all just hits off supply. So that zone's already been beaten up. So you would think like, okay, here is your supply zone. Well, realistically, it started back here. These are all hits, but we still have good structure, good impulses. There could still be some unfilled orders left behind, right? Because there's still good structure there. Nice impulses out. But just be mindful that, again, these are hits, supply back here. We'll keep it on watch and see if there's anything that sets up. But again, you know, that's up at the 6250s, right? We're at 6150. That's another 100 points to the upside. There's going to be more areas and more zones to work with prior to getting up into some of that supply here. All right. So that's what we got on ES, on the daily. Anything else? Yeah, let's go find one more dialed in zone of resistance to the upside. Next area that I see, and bear with me, guys. Sometimes if I get quiet for like 10 seconds, it's because I'm just super fucking focused and really dialed in, making sure that once I give you the zone levels, that it's a dialed in zone, that I'm not off by 5 points. If I'm off by 5 points, that's no bueno, is it? I'm just dialing in the zone. I'm just focused, looking to see where I want to plot that zone. That's a $12 zone. If I tick it down a little bit and connect those highs, yeah, it's about a $10 zone, but that's the zone. It's between 6,200 to 6,210, right, is your next daily zone. A lot of resistance, come up, hit it as resistance, big drop on off. Look at all that resistance that formed off that zone multiple times. Nice pops off that zone too. So you got several hits. That zone's been hit 10, 15 times, and you got some really sharp moves off that zone as well. So that's going to be your next zone to the upside, 6,200 to 6,210. So we got all of our zones to the upside, but we need to go find a couple lower zones to the downside as well. So let's go find our next lower zone of support. That's easy. It's going to be right here between 61.19 to 61.28. Right, we can see it was just all that prior resistance right here before that massive dump on off. We came up, hit it here as well. Nice drop on off. So that's going to be your next daily zone of support to the downside. That's everything we have on ES daily. All right, there's nothing else that I see that we can do here. So now we're going to go flip this into a 4-hour time frame, and we're going to see what we got on a 4. So looking at the 4-hour time frame, and I'm going to go look left and see, do we have any 4-hour time frame zones of supply demand? Yeah, look at that, guys. That's pretty solid. I like that. That looks good. 4-hour supply here. Nice little rally base drop formation. That's pretty freaking clear. That 4-hour supply zone lines up with that 6164 to 6172.75 zone. So we have not just a daily zone of resistance, we have some 4-hour supply right there as well. So that's going to be a nice area to look for some puts. What else do I have here? Anything else that lines up with those daily zones? Nope. Nothing else that's really lining up. But hey, 4-hour supply that lines up with that daily zone of resistance. That's awesome. What do we got on a 1-hour time frame? Let's see if we have any 1-hour supply. Yeah, I mean, you could tighten it up a little bit, but it's already pretty tight up against that daily zone of resistance. So I'm pretty good on the 1 hour. I'm not going to mark that up. Yeah, check that out, man. I love supply and demand analysis. Look at that supply zone on the 1 hour from February 21st. Drop, base, drop, and check where that zone of supply sits on the 1 hour. Haha, right at that daily zone of resistance. I just love when that happens. You come in, you find daily zones of, support resistance, and then you start drilling down to your lower time frames, and you start to get supply demand zones that line up beautifully at those daily zones of support resistance. It just makes for like some really simple high probability trading. So I'm done. Like, I'm convicted. I've done just enough analysis to where I'm convicted, and I know there's going to be a couple good trades that set up for sure. So what's going to be like the first trade that I'm going to entertain? Well, the first trade I entertain is a put. Why would I want to, get short? Not a put on ES, but short ES. Why would I want to get short? Well, I have a daily zone of resistance, and I have some 4-hour supply sitting here. So I know if we come up and hit that resistance level and we hit supply and I see good price action where I'm like, yep, there's unfilled orders there. Yep, we have more sellers than buyers. Yeah, I want to get short off that level because there's an 80% chance that we drop to the downside if we can't break through that level on ES. So why would I not want to take those odds? 80% odds? I'm taking that all the time. So that's going to be the first area that I'm considering a short inside of some of that 4-hour supply off that daily zone of resistance. This is what a plan would look like here on ES. Entries somewhere around 61.6750. You want to put stops above resistance. You want to put stops above that supply zone. You're going to probably run about 7 points of total risk on that trade. And then where would a realistic target be? Well, I would say back into these lows here, right? Where we found some recent support building back down around like 61.41. So we know that's a target. So, dude, we can already get a 3.5 to 1 risk reward. That's good. Great setup, multiple reasons to get short, good risk reward. That's game plan number 1 on ES. I would take that short on ES with you guys. All right, but let's go ahead and look at the markets and do a 180, right? Because who's to say we come up, hit that zone, hit that supply, and drop? What if we see price just break through that zone of resistance and we get through that supply zone? Well, that supply zone would be mitigated, so we would remove it, okay? If we come back down and retest prior resistance as new support, right? It's a simple break and retest. Then we'll just play the break and retest long on ES. Where to? Well, it's easy. Your next daily zone of resistance. And that's where we have some of that 1-hour supply as well, up around 6,200 buckarooskies. So those are my 2 plans on ES. All right, we got the short plan, off supply, off resistance. It's just got to have good price action there, good price reaction. Something has to happen. We got to see that there's clearly more sellers than buyers. I would take puts there. But at the same time, market's strong to the upside. And we may just continue to see legs up. And that's okay. That's fine. So if we are going to pop through supply, remove that supply zone, wait for the retest off that zone as support, and just play the momentum to the long side on ES. All right. And then let's go do NQ. Going to reset everything out. All right, so NQ, there's your daily supply zone on NQ. So same thing on NQ we had with ES. We got some daily supply right there. Nice little drop base drop. Look left. Was it a hit? No. There was supply up here. We put in some fresh supply here. Nice little, again, drop base drop formation. Nice impulse out. That's going to be some daily supply on NQ. Do we have any daily zones of support resistance? We do. Going to be right in this region here. So it's actually a tick below. that supply zone. And I'm just looking at these multiple hits that we've had. So we had this hit, rejection, this hit, big rejection, this hit, big rejection. Get above that zone, low at A bounce, low at A bounce. I like this zone on NQ. It's between, NQ zones are massive. It's between 22,516 to 22,541. So it's a bigger zone. It is. But that's the zone. That's the dialed in zone. Hit, 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 hit. You got 5 hits, sharp reactions, sharp moves. That's going to be a zone of resistance, and we got that daily supply to the upside. Where is our next lower zone of, say, support? Well, this is the first area that stands out to me. It's clear as day. Right down in this region here. I got 1 hit, 2 hits, 3, 4. I got 5 hits, 6, 7, 8. So I got like 8 hits, right? I'm just counting the bodies and the highs and the lows. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 hits. And we already came down and hit that level this morning too. Surprising, right? Like we build this zone back here. So like this zone's valid based on all this price action from back like in December, January. And it's no surprise that that's the level that we came down to, hit it as support, and we popped off of it, right? So, I mean, check it out. That zone came right from a daily, did it not? Like, we weren't even looking at our lower time frames to find this zone. It came right from the daily. You guys can see that. Then go into a freaking 1 hour time frame and look at that zone, right? It's super well respected. We ran up into it yesterday in pre-market. We dropped on off, right? We broke above it, held it as support, and we're pushing. So that's the beauty of these zones, right? Is you just wait for price to get to one of these zones and trade accordingly. First time running back up into resistance, we get short. If we break resistance, we know most of the time it turns support. We play the retest long. And it's really simple to just trade accordingly off of these high probability zones. So what do I see with NQ? Well, this is going to be the first time of us running up into this 22,516 to 22,540, 175 zone. Right? It's the first time that we're going to be touching that zone of resistance. What do I think is going to happen? I think we're going to drop. Why? Well, because it's a dialed in daily zone of resistance. It's the first time we're getting there. I know there's going to be more sellers than buyers present. So I know there's a higher probability outcome of the price falling once we get to that level. Same thing with this lower zone. I was thinking the same thing. We run up to the zone for the first time. It's an area where I expect there to be more sellers than buyers. I want to get short. Boom, get short. Nice rejection off that zone. So it's the same concept. It's the same thing. It's not a challenging approach to trading. Just wait for that zone to get hit. And if we see good price action and we fail to break the zone, I know we could see a nice move down. Like we hit that zone yesterday and saw a nice move down. I know if we hit this zone and don't break it, we can see a nice move down. I simply want to short that. And as long as I have good risk reward, I'm going to short NQ off that zone. Hopefully that makes sense, guys, on just how simple your trading can be. So that's going to be the first plan on NQ, is getting short off that zone. But again, what happens if we break the zone? Right? What if we break the zone like we broke that lower zone yesterday? Wait for the fucking retest. Just wait for the retest. So if we break the zone and pull back and retest it, then we will look to see if there's a reason to get long. And the reason I say we'll look to see if there's a reason to get long, because we know there's supply overhead. So there's still got to be good risk reward. So if we break that zone, retest it, and we build a plan, and we're like, okay, this is what a plan looks like, we just have to have good risk reward, knowing that we have supply overhead. So if we break the zone, we get in for the retest, and we know we have supply overhead, we're pretty limited on risk reward. Maybe a 2-to-1 to a 3-to-1 setup. So it really just depends on what the market's doing, how price action looks. We're just pretty limited on that type of trade to the upside, knowing that we would be getting long into supply. But the short looks great, man. Short looks great. Come up, hit that zone, fail to break it. We know we could see a nice little drop on back down to like 22,380 on NQ. Is there anything else that we can do on NQ? Any other analysis here? Let's go look at a 4-hour time frame and see if there's anything on a 4-hour. You got some of that 4-hour demand from yesterday, but not near the zone. How about a 1 hour? Nothing really clear on a 1 hour. Let's go finish it up on a 30. Is there anything that really pops off on the 30? I mean, yeah, you do got that little 30-minute intraday demand zone from yesterday. So it's a lighter confluence, right? It's a nice little 30-minute basing candle, little demand zone. They had that little rally base rally. Again, the impulse up wasn't spectacular by any means, but we can still see we had that nice little rally base rally formation. So it gives you a lighter confluence that, hey, you got some 30-minute demand, you got that daily zone of support, and you do have a little bit of that overlap going on there. So that's the Qs, or not the Qs, that's NQ. Any questions about ES and Q? I would say I like ES a lot more, right? Because we have supply overlapping daily resistance. I like the short on ES more than I like the Qs, just because we have some solid confluence here with ES compared to NQ. So cool. Any questions, let me know. If there's any other individual stocks you want to look at, let's get dialed, guys. Market will be open in about 12 minutes. We've looked at the SPY, the Qs, ES, NQ. What else you guys want to take a look at here? Do I mark out Asian and London session highs and lows? Personally, I don't. I got bread. How do I learn how to do this? There's two options you have to learn how to trade. There's the self-taught way where you go to, YouTube and Google and AI and you just self-train yourself. I would say my own experience, it took me 3 years to dial this in, self-educating. And I've worked with thousands of traders before they came in to get mentorship. They were self-educating themselves. And statistically, it's like 2 to 3 years on average where it takes a self-taught trader to finally dial the things in to figure it out to get to profitability. So it's like, just get out there and start learning, number one. And it just depends on how long it takes to get there. Again, good statistics, it's about 2 to 3 years. If you want to shorten the learning curve and get it done in like 90 days, 120 days, we can have a conversation about coaching and see if it makes sense, see if you're a good fit. It just comes down to that. You can get out there and get all this education you need. And you can dial these things in on your own. I did. It just took a long time. Or if you want to shorten the learning curve, you need to find a mentor. You need to find a coach that can help you expedite things, shorten the learning curve, avoid a lot of mistakes. But the decision's really up to you. But I'm all about hiring coaches and mentors myself. Like, I spend anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 a year on coaching and mentorship because I don't want to make the mistakes and I don't want the learning process to take too long. And so I'd rather speed things up myself and work with someone that already has the experience to where I can avoid a lot of those costly mistakes and get shit done a lot quicker because time is money, right? You can figure something out in 90 days compared to a year. Well, there's a big difference between those two things, and that's an opportunity cost. You just got to look at it both ways and see what kind of person you are and then make the decision and go find someone that can help you if you choose a coach or a mentor. What's learning curve to learn all this? How long did it take me? It took me 3 years to piece all of this together and figure this out. But I've taken my 10 years of experience, I've distilled it down into 10 things. And just 10 things that if my students dial in and master, right, they'll become profitable in as little as 90 to 120 days. So you're talking like 3 to 4 months. Because it's like those are the core 10 things that if you, again, dial in, learn how to implement those things, you can learn those quickly, get them implemented pretty quickly. And those are the most important 10 things to master day one to get to that point of profitability. So it could be done pretty quick without cutting corners and without trying to skip steps. Felix, dude, the sky's the limit. Right? The sky is the limit when you're hitting all-time highs. Tom, you want to look at Toast? T-O-S-T, Toast. Go look at Toast. You thinking about a day trade, swing trade, investment? What are we thinking on T-O-S-T so I can analyze this bad boy properly? Looks like you got earnings coming on up here August 12th. So earnings will be... Was it August 12th? Oh, August. Yeah, you got some time. You got time. 45 days out. So what are we thinking, man? Day trade, swing to swing. Looks like it's breaking out. That's the first thing that I see is it looks like it wants that little break to the upside, right? Nice big push, nice double bottom, nice U-shaped formation. This definitely has everything about a breakout. I mean, it 100%. So here's what I see is I would want to start with a fib retracement on this leg and see if that was a valid retracement low, where we put in this double bottom. So I'm going to take a fib retracement from the swing low to the swing high, and I'm just looking to see, was this a double bottom that formed off of a fib level? It was. It took place off the 38.2. So this is a strong double bottom. This is really good market structure that's been set in off of a pretty key level, right? So that's the first thing I noticed. Looks good. Nice double bottom. Looks like it's getting ready to break to the upside, 100%. I don't trade the breaks. I trade the retest of the breaks. So what I want to do is just mark up my resistance point on TOST. So I'm going to mark up these previous highs. We can clearly see we've been, hitting this region for a good amount of time. Set in some pretty good resistance here. And I'm going to go look left and see if there's a prior level back here too. I'm going to take that zone up against those highs that we just built, and I'm going to take it to the left and see if I get any more hits. I do. We fall below that zone, retest it, we drop, right? Come up, hit it a few times, drop, hit it a few times, drop. Yeah, so that's the breakout point. That's the best of the best zone on TOST. Between 45.26 to 45.60. That's the zone that we need to break, stay above it if we want to see that expansion to the upside and see that nice move on up. But where to? Right? Where to? That's the $1 million question, right? Let's look at a weekly. These weekly lows stand out to me. Those weekly lows right here. That stands out to me big time. So we got weekly lows, weekly highs. Yeah, come down, hit, weekly low, bounce, get below that zone, retest it with that weekly high, drop on off. So we know that's the next area of resistance to the upside here on TOST. Is going to be up around 48.64 to 49.04. That's a pretty clear level there. Is there anything that stands out on a monthly? Yeah, kind of you got that little monthly supply look going on, right? Little drop-based drop. But again, that's near the IPL. I tread lightly with that. And then let's go look and see if we have any daily supply. Yeah, not really. Nothing that looks super awesome. This is an easy one, Tom. I do like this. It does look like it's getting ready for the breakout. Most definitely. And if we do break and hold, yeah, I think this thing has a lot of great potential to get to that next zone. Up around 48.64 to 49.04. Obviously, seeing this thing a couple of weeks ago and doing analysis, getting in down as it was putting in that market structure, that double bottom, prior to getting that pop over the last few days, in hindsight, entries down around 42 would have been awesome. But getting in here makes no sense because we may fail to break that level and see some downside. So you'd have to wait for that zone to break and retest to play this long. So where are we at? Whoa, what is going on? Where are we at? Looks like we may start breaking that zone today, right? So we're actually hitting that zone right now here in pre-market. So today, man, yeah, if we get a nice break of that zone and we come back down and we hold that zone as intraday support, I would play long all day and play some calls for sure up to that 48, 49 level. I think this looks really good. And what would look even better is if we opened above that zone. I doubt it. We got 4 minutes till market open. But if for any reason price pops in the next 4 minutes and we open above that zone, that would look even better, right? Just to have it come down, hit that zone as support, and get a pop. If we gap up open above that zone and then retest it, oh, that looks a lot better than just seeing the fresh break and retest intraday. But either way, I like it. If you get the break and the retest, that's what we want to see to play those calls. If it opens above that zone and then comes down for the retest, that's an A+ setup all day. All day. And just trading from keys on the key zone, there's a lot that looks good with TOST, right? Nice leg up. putting in this double bottom, great market structure off the 38.2, volumes increasing over these last couple of days into resistance, looking like we can get that break. This looks strong to the upside, and I think this will be a nice, maybe week, 2-week long swing trade on TOST. I think it looks really nice, man. I think there's something here. Cool. I like it a lot. I do. I think there's some really solid potential, but we got to get that Zoom fired up, guys. So I'm going to go ahead and drop this stream for the morning TA breakdown. I'm going to go ahead and get that Zoom loaded on up. I'll see you guys here in a couple short minutes. If you guys are on TikTok, stay blessed, trade smart, and trade safe, right? You ever have any questions about trading, getting started, you guys can shoot me a DM anytime. I'm happy to help point you guys in the right direction. If you guys want to have a conversation around coaching, mentorship, you want to gain these skills a little bit quicker and avoid a lot of mistakes that come with the process, again, just hit me up if you guys have any questions. We can have a conversation around coaching, or if you just want some recommendations, I got you guys. All right. But peace out. Again, stay blessed, everybody on TikTok, and I will catch you guys back here at 8:30 this Friday. And then everybody else, I will see you guys in the Zoom sesh here in a couple seconds. I'm going to go warm up my coffee first, and then I'll fire that